center into what we know God to be, in our highest ideal of God. Center into that and become that thing. I mean, it can't be any easier. It's not out there, it's not up in the sky, it's not way beyond, it's wherever we choose to find it. God is in people, but also in the temple in our own heart and soul. So what could be better than just feeling that presence rising within? Instead of begging it to make a visit once in a while, just call it in. And so we let that feeling of God's presence rise within us. And this morning, what I do typically in the morning is when I wake, I don't choose or tell God what principle to be, what I'm going to meditate on. I ask what the message for the day would be. And today mine was understanding. The word came to me, understand. It came to me divine understanding. So it's great that you chose that word. So I heard the words divine understanding and I thought, okay. So I just kind of, drop into that. That became my mantra, to center into divine understanding. And then you breathe that in and you try to become that. You try to feel that. This is how I suggest people start the day. But it's whenever I teach something, try to understand that I'm not saying you have to do, because I like to integrate all the teachings of whatever, anything that works and makes sense. I do believe in making God the goal, but I don't care if we call it something Eastern. I don't care if we associate it with male or female. I don't care if you're out on the, in nature, beating a stick to the ground and screaming to the trees. Whatever your rituals might be, your ceremony might be, I love it all. Because as long as it's focused on awakening, then I think it's fantastic and effective. So I like to integrate all these things. And that concept of waking up, starting the day with God, is a metaphor of making God a priority in our lives. Before any decision, God first. You see, that kind of a thing. So today it was, divine understanding. And then you center in that and you try to feel that. But then what happens is, and this happened with Solomon, he called on wisdom. But then he called on wisdom. He let wisdom well up within, which we call getting a blessing from God. In a way, the old superstitious teachings were, a guy begged God, please give me something. God then decides, I guess so. And then sends it like, here comes wisdom, Solomon, throws those down into the universe. And Solomon's down there having, crumpets and tea. And then all of a sudden he went, whoa, I've been healed. God doesn't give you a gift. It's that we finally get out of the way. I mean, that's really what's happening. If it's true that God gives you a gift, then that cannot mean that God made you in its image. Then why would you be missing wisdom? Why would you be missing anything? But that's the human mind. It likes to think that way because it likes to think everything is separated. Okay, fine. But when we call upon divine wisdom, understanding, whatever it is, what happens is really we chose to get out of the way, and so it wells up. It rises. But whether you believe it's God giving it to you, whether you believe it's rising up within, still, one of the beautiful things about it is that principle starts to teach you something. You pray for understanding, you pray for wisdom, and now if you let it happen, and this takes a little bit of imagination, it takes intuition, it takes letting go of the head so that the heart can start filling up with this thing. If my heart starts filling up with peace and wisdom and understanding, it'll start downloading into the very being that I think I am. So I start suddenly going, oh, I'm having insights, and we call it different things, but the truth is, that which is just becoming. That which was always there is starting to now be allowed to download. It's not as much coming to us as much as it is being a time-released capsule. It's just somebody has to eventually let that capsule pop open. So it doesn't matter how you think it's happening. It came from heaven through Arcturus and through the 2012, the 1111 gateway, in Orion, and 16,000 angels brought it to you. Great. As much as what matters is that you start living it. Accept it and live it. Breathe it in and live it. That's a bit of, the getting in the zone. And it's so practical. It's so applicable. You know, it's not separate. It's like, wow, we all have this available to us. Every single human being has this available. It doesn't matter if you're a major full-blown drug addict. When you set that aside for even just a second and choose God, something changes. Something changes. And you might still choose an addiction tomorrow or the next day. You might. But gradually, the more we allow God to fill us, there's really no room for anything else. So that's why I've said habits and such fall away. I know that some people would rather tell you, you have to become perfect before you deserve God. God actually is telling us, you do not. That's the whole point. You thinking you can figure out what perfect is getting you into trouble. Another way to say it, the scriptures say, God is no respecter of man. Meaning, what you can think of as your greatest good doesn't really count for much from divine perspective. We're supposed to learn to say down to the lower self. We're supposed to learn to let go of our ingenuity, so to speak. I don't mean you can't have wisdom or thoughts or intelligence. I'm just saying we have to let go of thinking we know what's best. That level of humility is absolutely essential. And if it's never been clear, let me say this, you know, people tend to like what I do and they think I'm a good teacher, I'm a good writer. And I think I am. I like doing it. It seems to flow pretty easily and it seems to be pretty effective. But there isn't anything that I've ever done as a healer, spoke, taught as a teacher, that isn't still second fiddle to Christ consciousness. I don't think of myself as, wow, look at me. Like some people walk around and they love the label and the title. I'm the Dalai this and the holy that and the shaman and all the names and labels. You know, I mean, that's partly what Scripture meant when Jesus says, don't call any person father. And then churches were built around calling the leaders father. How come they don't say, well, actually, that's not advisable? They enjoy it. All the people that give themselves names and certifications enjoy that ego-based thing. I love and I know that if I were to live 15 other lifetimes, which I will not, but if I were to live 15 other lifetimes, I know that I would keep that one characteristic about me, which is I know priorities. And I know that no matter how much I know and no matter how much people might like what I do, I always defer to, I'm only tapping into Christ consciousness. That's all. I mean, I'm still a person, teacher, whatever, but it's just tapping into that. And my goal is to become an embodiment of that. Not an embodiment as though I walk around, careful, don't touch me, I'm an embodiment. I mean an embodiment as in knowing how to still be in the trenches and live it as best I can. I'm going to share something with you. I was thinking I wasn't going to. I was not sure if it was this week, next week, or never. But I'm going to share, I was not sure, and I was waiting for clarity as to whether this was now or later. So here it is. This is something relevant to everybody. I would highly recommend, if you live here or wherever you live, or if you're moving, get what is technically called an astrocartography chart done. Or they call them relocation charts. You usually, and I know we have them on my website, there's somebody that does them, they're probably $20 or go anywhere else you want. Consider it, because it'll tell you what life would be where you're living, and it'll tell you some pros and cons, so that you can better be equipped to know what to do and how to deal with where you're living. It's beautiful. It's amazing because I've seen people move somewhere and then run into struggles, and then it's in the stars, as it were. Now, I'm not asking you to become addicted to fortune-telling, quote-unquote. What I'm saying is God and the universe is constantly trying to give us good advice and guidance as to what to do, what not to do, just guidelines. And free will is, of course, the spiritual muscle we all need to exercise. But it's something that we can use to save ourselves trouble. It's one more way to allow guidance to come through us. And we talked about that last week, right? So I'm going to share just a dozen quick sentences of the positive and negatives. This was about my coming to Sedona. I unfortunately didn't receive this until after I moved here. Here's the good news. Your dreams and inner life can be quite spectacular in this locale. Try as you may, it's going to be really difficult to live your life on a superficial level, day-to-day level, as you're constantly moved by powerful forces originating deep within. Next, living in this zone plugs you in for good or ill to inexplicable vibrations. There will be advantages to being so plugged in to the currents and mystical patterns here. If you remain a channel for these currents without getting too frazzled, this zone can be one in which the heights of spiritual awareness are reached. Next, you can put your audience in touch with the cosmos and bring them safely home with your unique gifts. And when it comes to mysticism and religion, you have a direct channel to God. Next, others feel inspired, propelled by deep unconscious feelings, and in tune with higher consciousness whenever you're around. Next, you live in tune with natural and mystical forces, intuition, and inspiration. In this locality, your mind is ahead of its time. Lastly, on the positives, anyone who prefers to feel a sense of control of their lives will find this zone repugnant. This is, for me, but a lot of this is applicable to you in Sedona or people thinking of moving here. But it certainly is specific to my own chart. This zone will present the most difficult problems in your life, as all criteria for evaluating experience will turn undependable and deceptive. Conversely, those who delight in self-sacrifice recognize a higher power that guides their lives and see themselves as a channel for some sort of divine or cosmic energy. They may find this zone a perfect one in which to develop such awareness along with psychic, artistic, and intuitive gifts. But, now, here's the rest of the story. People project their fondest and most unrealistic wishes onto you, assuring an ephemeral popularity. Such as fascinating, beautiful, and mysterious, you are actually only holding a mirror up to everyone's incompleteness. Controversy seems to accompany you with everything you say. I don't know why that is. Acting out society's unconscious, you're likely to be exploited, harassed, put under surveillance, and seen as a counterculture form of anarchy. Ridiculous. I protest. You might act out the tragic side of primary archetypes, universal archetypes, sacrificing yourself for a greater end, only to find that your beneficiaries either crucify you or distort you into the usual materialistic and banal forms they prefer. A commitment to rediscovering paradise lost causes difficulty retaining cohesiveness. Half dozen more existing relationships may be marked with numerous issues as they get bogged down in projections acted out by others. To survive, you'll have to learn a whole new way of feeling and relying on inner vision. You might get caught in some things you don't understand, and when the fog finally clears, you may have lost much of what you once knew. That's very true about coming to Sedona, incidentally. On social levels, you end up too often a patsy. Society sees you as something as dangerous, so attacks can befall you. Relationships go particularly poorly here, with people either taking advantage or using you and idealizing you, ignoring who you really are. Health is rarely good in this zone, which is odd because I noticed that a couple of years ago, chronic infections, allergies, mysterious ailments, and dysfunction of the immune system leave you open to a host of maladies. Accidents are frequent, resistant to environmental contaminants is poor, as your energy patterns are too erratic here. Due to the intense, unpredictable influence of this zone, you repeatedly attract people who are unstable. Oh my God. Everybody talks about you in this town, admires you or hates you. No one is neutral. It seems as you become a symbol of a cause or a movement. They take advantage of you, so they're often scapegoating you. Lastly, you'll find this area problematic due to repeated problems with competition and exposure to the ill will of others. And then it goes on to say, just due to people's longings, you become a fantasy to many, which causes extremes in you of aestheticism and celibacy. Now, that's right. So think about how we can all learn to be guided. The stars are not for fortune telling, they're actually a map that are trying to give us some guidance. Numbers, the bumps on your head, the shape of your face, the lines on your hand. We are cosmic beings, and we were not sent here without an owner's manual, as people claim to be, which is just perpetuating victimization. When I read that, I came across that again the other day, and I was like, oh my God, it's hilarious and tragic at the same time. But I'm just being honest. These are the pros and cons that it suggested could be there. Some of it consistent probably for everybody. But you think you go to Sedona and it's only going to be good. You think if you start a new job, it can only be good. You think if you start a new relationship. Just because something's new or powerful or energetic doesn't mean it's going to go the way you think. Life mirrors. One of the things it had said there is how relationships can go poorly, and I'm tying a couple pieces together, because you're really just holding up a mirror to people's incompleteness. Now, that may be what you find in your lives too. But when you start stepping up and kind of living more of a role, if you start getting acceleration of roles at work, if you have a partner that leaves and you become the household leader, it's amazing the stuff that starts hitting you. It's enough that you got to take care of the kids because someone's gone. They died or left. The kids don't say, well, wow, we're so impressed with you taking this on. We're just going to say yes to everything you ask us to do. Sometimes they do the opposite and push the buttons and tug at you and try to tear you down. Man, I'm sorry about that. Because I know it's not easy. But at the same time, whatever this kind of thing could tell me, the truth is still, we're really mirroring also to ourselves a way to accelerate our own consciousness. If you don't go through these kinds of tests, how are you going to peel off your layers? You do have an option. You can come to Sedona and do it more intensely, quickly, or you can take 500 lifetimes to do it. And you get to choose. You actually get to choose. No, I'm a slow learner. I'm really hesitant. I'd rather take a long time. The one partner I have issues with, the issues I have with them, I would rather break that into 5 partners in the future with other relations, in other lifetimes. Or I'll work on it now. I don't want to think about that person. Congratulations. Then you've just stamped your file that you want a few more lifetimes of that person. So we get to decide. Yes, it's true that if I see those kinds of things ahead of time, I would hesitate. But I would probably still have come here. But I'm odd. I would say to you, when you see these things, you have to understand it's not just telling you do and don't do. When I see things like this, I take it quite seriously. And if I sit and say, there could be some challenges apparently going through this. This is a kind of a standard you might use. If it seems like more negative could come from this than positive, then you might think twice about doing it, because that's like the universe saying it's not worth it. But for me, even though I see challenges, what I do is I say to myself, God be with me. We're going in. When I make choices like that, someone will say, this could be difficult. If the greater good is waiting for me at the end of the ride, I'm probably going to do it. And I've done that even when it was a painful ride. But I didn't just go, let's just leap in as though, because that's victim consciousness. I said, if at the other end, there's something beautiful, powerful, more God, then to me it's right. So I have, been able to make decisions in my life that I thought, wow, this could be challenging. But I do it. And when you know that it's in the stars, guys, please know it's another way that God, the universe, your own soul, is sort of giving you some hints of what to expect so you don't get plowed, so you don't get mowed over. That's why it's helpful to talk to counselors, other people in similar roles. Just getting a second opinion. Now, some of you had asked for, questions related to understanding. So this is related to that. But you also talked about, one of you over here kind of made a reference about that, decision making and then also the higher consciousness, the greater identity. So just to comment on that briefly. There's an I am and there's an I am not. So all of us have 3 identities really. A God self and then a human self, but in between is the soul that chooses constantly, every day. It's choosing. Am I the divine self or am I that human self? Here's the beauty of it. The divine self is that which I am. The human self is that which I am not. It's an amazing play on words, but it's important. So you're not actually torn between this and that, right and wrong. Sedona, pros and cons. We're not actually torn the way we think we are. You're only torn between that which is and that which isn't. And if it isn't, how much pull can it have? We actually think we have to make decisions. Do I choose to marry this one or that one? Date this one or that one? Take this car or that car? This job or that job? We don't realize if we center in the I am, you would end up choosing a date, a car, a person, or whatever that most resonates with that which I am. You follow? Why would you choose anything that resonates with that which you are not? That doesn't make any sense. That would be like me saying, I'm going to choose the car that you suggest. Let's go shopping and tell me what car. I'm going to go with the car that resonates with you? That doesn't make sense. It's no diss on you, but you are not me. I need a car that works for me. The seats are comfortable to my body or whatever it happens to be, right? That I can afford. So our problems, this is why Buddha was saying, the problem in life is all based on one thing, which is ignorance, which means we forgot who we are. So when we forget who we are, think about the insanity of this. If we forget who we are and make decisions based on that, how could that go well? You move to a town that you are not resonating with. You get partnerships that you do not resonate with. That which I am is divine, and I need to start listening to that voice. There's 3 identities, I said, but really I'm narrowing it down now to I am and I am not. Now, the I am and I am not, let me say it another way. The I am not tries to create rules and laws that look like the same laws of God or I am, so that it looks confusing and similar. For example, the spoken word. That which I am not or that which I am both speak constantly. But think about this. We use I am to define ourselves. How are you doing? I am fine. I am sick. I am tired. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am so happy, right? That's an I am. It's stating what I am. But the problem is it sounds similar. I am sounds similar. People that hear you say I am, they don't actually think, they don't pause to think and discern which I am you're talking from. The I am of God can only speak from love. That which I am not can say all kinds of ridiculous things. I am not happy. Wait, if I am is God's name, God, what do we call you? I am that I am. God says, I am. And God says, and you're made in my image. So I'm sorry, what's your name again? I am. But humans go, I am sick. Wait, you just said the I am of God is sick? That doesn't really make any sense. I am is going through a tough divorce. Spiritually, it doesn't make sense the way we all talk. And people wonder why prayers seem unanswered. It's because they don't even know how to pray anymore. They don't even know who they are that's praying. I am praying. Which I am are you? Is that the I am or the I am not? Well, we'll find out as soon as you say, I am sad. I am sad, God. Bring my partner back to me because I will feel better if they're back in my life. The longing, the lacking, and praying for things outside of ourselves. I am. How do I get back to I am understanding? Now, I'm not saying you have to not speak the words. I'm not one of those people that's a purist and making a religion out of words. Like, don't say that word, don't say it. I'm not like that. I'm okay with the idea, but if you're going to say I'm sick, just say I feel sick. You know why? Because feel means it seems like it. Actually, it's a funny thing you ask. How are you doing, Mike? It's a funny thing you ask because I know that on one level, I am great. It's impossible for me to be anything but amazing because I'm one with God. But you know the funny thing, Doc, is my arm fell off today. So I am missing an arm. But when I say I am, it seems that way. Learn to get the mind to discern that which is from that which seems to be. That which is only ever the truth of God. And it cannot be sick or lacking. So know the truth, but respect the illusion. I am, on some level, I know that I'm fine. Today I'm not feeling that, though. That's honest. See, you don't have to go, I'm fine, arm pops off. Okay, I'm still fine, like the Monty Python movie where the guy's losing all his limbs, saying it's just a flesh wound, So pretty soon then goes the other leg, and then goes the other leg, laying on the ground. Come back, I'll bite you in the ankles. That's denial. That's kind of silly. Just be honest. Isn't this funny? Because I'm made in the image of God. You could be the most messed up human being. And yet you can say, it's a funny thing. I know that on some level, I'm a holy person. On some level, there's a part of me that can't have ever done the things that I've done in this lifetime or had done to me. Yet sometimes it doesn't feel like that. Sometimes I feel scared. Sometimes I feel like I need a drink. That's honest. You see? In that honesty comes innocence rising. And in that innocence, you're birthing the Christ self. You see? It's fantastic, really. I am versus I am not. And instead of trying to pretend the I am not's there, that's negative talk. No, just own it. Because we're only saying it's what seems to be. The people that say don't speak it at all are actually in a negative form of denial. And almost every form of denial is negative. The only positive form of denial, as taught in A Course in Miracles, is to deny the effects of that which you are not. To stand up and be able to say, yeah, this is what seems to be, but I refuse to believe this has any power over me. That's a healthy form of denial. So when we think about I am, here's another way to think of it. And it's kind of amazing that this happens. I am. I am. Thou shalt not use the Lord's name in vain. Means what? Be careful when you use I am. If you affirm and decree I am, which is the name of God, as given to the Israelites, the name of God is I am, and there's reasons for that. The name of God is not Sam or Sally. There's a reason why it's I am. But the name of God is I am. And when you say I am sad, I am poor, you're actually using the Lord's name in vain. And then we go right back to childhood going, oh my God, if Michael's serious, man, I've really messed up because I'm not supposed to use the Lord's name in vain. And just today I said, I am late getting to church. So now I'm in trouble. No, because that's the projections that God's like sitting there going, I am so going to get you for that. And that's not the way God is. It's the way I am not. Projecting itself onto that which I am. Making me forget the I am. So the I am of God says this. Spelled I, and then an A, and an M. Notice how the I has one point at the top, one at the bottom, because the Lord thy God is one. And it ends at that I, which is our upper chakra. The I am is the three letters representing the upper three chakras, which are the presence of God, the Trinity within us. So the first letter I is the first chakra, starting from the top. Notice that it ends with 1 point, which connects with the A, which starts with 1 point and ends with 2 points. For the second chakra, counting down. And then the A, which ends with 2 points, starts with the next letter, which is M, which starts with 2 points and ends with 3 points. Because that chakra is the third chakra down. So I am is right here. It's right where the kingdom of God is within you, Jesus says. And when he said that, they actually tried for the first time to kill him. They actually took him out of the synagogue and tried to kill him that day because he's describing the kingdom of heaven is here. It's right now and it's within you. And they said, somebody kill him quickly. Shut him up. Why? Because that which I am not cannot hear those words. They cannot hear the kingdom of God is here because it means the gentle demise of that which I am not. A lot of us believe that it's not a gentle demise but a horrid ending called the Last Judgment. We think it's actually this horrid ending. It's not like I'm melting. It's not, the ego doesn't scream and like melt into your carpet. Then you got to, figure out ways to get that thing out of the carpet. And That's not how this comes to an end. What happens is, it gets retired for lack of work. It doesn't scream as much. It's just, there's a threat that it's going to scream. But the screaming is only in our imagination. The threat of it is in our imagination. So even when you're going to end a job or a relationship that isn't related to I am, there's this fear that it's going to go poorly, that it's going to scream on its way out. And in this world it does. But only because we believe it. We believe, now if I end this relationship, I just know they're going to take me for everything. I know that's the way it's going to seem. But take the advice of Martin Luther King Jr., man, who said, you can take my life, but you can't take my soul. Go through it anyway, because tomorrow you're the next level up in consciousness. The people that keep taking will not gain in consciousness. So I am. There's another way to say this. The three letters I-A-M also, because we believe we separated from God, we left heaven and we went down to earth in our lower chakras. So the I am presence of God symbolically did the following. We will leave the I, the Father, metaphorically, not gender, in heaven. A drops to our heart chakra. The M, becomes the lower three chakras, the human self. So I represents God's presence in the upper chakras, left there. The A becomes still the bridge I described between the I and the M, down in the heart center. And it sits there as a bridge, the home of the Holy Spirit. The M drops, and because of those 3 points on the bottom of an M, the M drops and represents the three lowest chakras, the human chakras. So that means that even though the I am represents the upper three chakras, do you see how God also said, if you think you're going to leave, I'm going to send the presence with you. So I am is also capable of being here, here, and here in my human self. I'm still allowed and capable of experiencing the I am presence of God even in this world. Until we totally transform the world. Chakras disappear. The barriers between them disappear. There's no here and there. And we see heaven on earth. In the end of the book of Revelation, that's described as the New Jerusalem descending from the sky, from heaven, descending onto the earth plane. It means when I have no will apart from God's, when I have no resistances to that which I am. And this is funny, guys. This is not just about me and God or whatever. This is about me accepting my true self. You know, we don't want to keep thinking of it as just like some sort of battle out there with people or with God. All of this I'm describing is actually this amazing psychological warfare of simply us accepting our divinity. Now, if you asked a child, sweetheart, there's this divine nature that you have that's always happy, always wonderful, can never be harmed. Or there's the opposite. Sweetheart, which one would you like to be? Most children don't say, could I have the damaged one, Mom? That's not usually going to be there. But human beings choose this every day, which is why Jesus in A Course in Miracles uses the reference of insane to describe human beings. Because we're not making sane decisions at all. No child in their right mind is going to choose pain. Of course it's going to say, oh, happy every day and gifts constantly. Of course. And that's what awaits us. Our psychological battle is something between it's a choice we make, between ease and struggle. But we keep choosing struggle. And really, if we summarize why we do that, it's only this. It's fear. We also have that ego nature, that we want it when we want it, how we want it to look the way, and so on. We don't totally understand the concept of true surrender. I do not know my own best interests. Show me, God, guide me. What would you have me believe today? You know, what would you have me learn today? So there's this battle, but it's really just within us. Outside, politics, war, those are all just metaphors of what's happening inside of us collectively. You may not believe that they reflect, your beliefs, because you can say, oh my God, no way. I believe in, peace and joy and granola, and happy organic living and so on. So I'm totally anti-war and all that. No, you know what? Until we accept that there's an individual and there's a collective, and I am part. The I am not and the I am are part of a collective. So war comes from our collective I am beliefs, our I am not beliefs in war. I am not at peace, therefore we manifest war. We can't say, no, I'm an innocent, nice person. It's bad people that cause war. It isn't. It isn't just crazy, political leaders. It isn't just Republicans. It isn't just males. It isn't just females. It isn't that at all. It's us. Well, I refuse to believe that because I meditate every day. Oh, quiet. Start with, you're feeling conflicted even when I tell you this. You don't even like when I tell you that it's possible that you have stuff inside. I do not. See, that's causing war right now. And it causes war in your organs. It causes war in your glands. It makes cells fight because you want to just stuff what's really going on. You can be a beautiful person and you can still be humble enough to say, I don't recall having any harsh, conflicted thoughts lately, but if I'm part of the collective and the collective manifests war, I know that on some level I might be contributing. Even look at the casual wording. I might. You don't have to put these heavy chains on and carry the weight of it all. Just let it be casual. But the good news is this. If that which I am not is co-creating a war, which is coming from that which I am not, it cannot be very real, and therefore it will not have very much, much power over me. It will not push the buttons it once had. But if that which I am not is contributing to war, to harsh things that are happening on this planet or whatever, wherever in the world, then I am also capable of saying, wait, if that which I am not contributed, that which I am can heal it. Not by saying, I did not do that. It's own it, take that which I am not, own it. I guess for a moment I forgot who I am and I contributed. I give that to you, God. Now that which I am, I'm calling in. You cannot bring in the I am presence while pretending that which I am not isn't there. You have to own that it's there and choose to surrender it. We chose to create an identity that isn't real. We chose to create something other than that which I am. No, we didn't. See, that's not going to help. If we didn't, then why are we sitting in a room of separate bodies that get older and die? Is that as good as it gets? Is that reflecting heaven? It isn't. And if it isn't, somebody's gone and done something weird. Somebody's created that which we are not. A reality that reflects that which we are not. So life is a struggle only because it's being created by that which we are not. We own it, we surrender it and say, but the I am choosing now. The choice has to be made constantly. But remember, choice. People think free will allows you to walk around the planet, harm and abuse and spout things and say, well, we have rights for free speech. That's not what free will is supposed to be about. Free will is supposed to be spiritual, and it's not about what you do. It's the choices you make inside, mainly about who you are. Not what other people do. I have free will and I'm choosing to tell you I don't like what you're wearing. And I have the right, it's freedom of speech. That's why those rules, those laws, everybody argues about them. Because they weren't God created. So people can argue about stuff that isn't real. But what is real is this. I can choose how I feel about that. I can choose to react to what people say and do, and I can choose to heal it. I can choose to deny these issues, or I can choose to bring them into my heart, to the altar in my heart, and change them. So we can actually transform the world with one word, choice. Not choice in an election, choice inside. And that's what people apparently have forgotten. That's why people are so nuts about elections and so forth. Because they're showing their true colors. Because if you're still getting upset about the election, and some people are, and they probably will for years, because that's the nature of ego. But if you're still getting upset, it means there was an investment of some kind on something outside. I'm not saying you had bad opinions or preferences. I'm saying, why are we upset? Even if you think there's something wrong with it, it could have only been created from that which we are not. How can we heal it? Choice inside, not by changing things on the outside. That's why people like Martin Luther King and others, Gandhi and others, Peace Pilgrim and so on, they believed that the changes happen in consciousness. You know? They believed it was done in consciousness. Buddha taught that. You know, it's in consciousness. It's not external with force. But on planet Earth, which was created from that which we are not, we love to believe that what we see is what matters. So we're going to force external changes, and that's not what works. And even if you could, it doesn't bring peace. So if we stay aligned with the I am presence, then everything you guys brought up when we started half an hour ago, everything you brought up is already here and available to us. Michael, can you talk about how to work on relationships? Michael, can you talk about peace or whatever it is? It comes from the remembrance of who we are. Anything to the contrary comes from that which I am not. So remember to keep practicing to recognize when I'm coming from that which I am not. Then deny the effects of that choice. It could be somebody comes up to me and says, hey, did you hear that person that was sitting over there did this or did that? That is a reflection of that which I am not coming from you. And I can say in my mind, not to you personally, but get behind me, Satan. You're just reflecting that which I am not. And I have that choice always available to me. If I hear something hurtful, one of you brought up, you know, dealing with negative words. Those can't come from that which I am. You know, if you say to me, you know, Michael, I'm struggling and this happened and that happened and it's righteous and righteous and righteous. Go ahead, get more righteous. Say it even louder. And all you're doing is convincing me that this cannot be coming from God. God doesn't have that voice to try to prove or insist. So I watch that and I listen to the best of my ability. Where's the I am voice in this? You guys may or may not agree with this, but a gal came to me for a session, and a beautiful soul, came to me for a session, and she said, Michael, I've got to tell you, you know, besides whatever else she was dealing with, she said, this election thing, she said, I haven't felt the same since. And she said, when that election happened, I spent days on the ground. I couldn't even walk. I had to crawl from place to, I mean, and some of you go, I can relate, and others are thinking, what? That's great. No. This is how much it's, you know, affected some people. This is a mature business person, successful person, and yet they were that devastated. And obviously, for reasons that other people are talking, you know, about who wins and doesn't win and all that. So I said, okay, we're going to do a beautiful healing, you know, because we have to, you know, bring some healing by the end of this session. So I said, sit and just breathe. And the person's breathing. And you could tell it was really cool because they trusted me enough to know, you know, thank God, you know, this is going to shift because I just felt so pulled out of myself and ripped apart, you know. So, okay, I'm ready, Michael. You see this little smile? Yes. The head tilts back. Yes. You know, now imagine that in my hand, I have that energy that is going to give you back something you lost. If you truly accept it and understand it. All right, I'm ready, you know. Open up, be ready, visualize, etc., etc. So build the energy, okay. Now I'm placing this in your hand now. They take it, they go, wow. Okay, they feel that beautiful energy right there. I said, now, slowly bring it closer and closer to your heart. And you see a little smile on their face as that energy is getting closer to their heart. This is it. The healing, the solution to all of that which ripped you apart. Bring it closer, and as you breathe in the next breath, absorb in your inner Donald Trump. Yeah, I know, it's disturbing for some, but that's where your healing's going to lie. Bring in the idea of anybody that you saw as that which they are not, and try to see them differently. It doesn't matter if you can convince me right or wrong because it ain't going to get anywhere. You're not going to get anywhere telling me about any of this or that. There's no war that's ever been a truly holy war. There's always two sides making money and gaining power. It doesn't matter. I know that sounds sacrilegious to some people living in this country or that country. They think that, oh, they can only do right. You know, war, power, you know, behind the wars, there's other stuff. So I don't buy into that. I don't buy into that there's a perfect person. I think there's been some that have really been close considering their position, like Abraham Lincoln. I think he really had a level of integrity that was unique. But he chose that which I am instead of that which I am not. He had a lot of people not liking him. So if you're going to choose that path, understand what you're getting into. Because you have to be courageous enough to let that which I am not peel away. If I'm going to judge somebody, I better bring it in and own it right here, because my power will come from that. To be able to say, instead of that which I am not, I'm not a jerk and I'm not a control freak like that guy, that president. He's over there and now I'm safely innocent over here. It doesn't work that way. As soon as you spout it out and make a bad guy, you're actually denying your ability to heal that. Bring it back to the altar and surrender it. As not only my projections of what they are not, now I begin to heal that which I am not. Which then results in what? Becoming that which I am. And when I see that which I am, I'm going to see that which I am in other people. Good people, troubled people, but they start to change. You can't see clients, if they're sick, as sick and expect to help them. You have to be willing to let go of that which they are not, which is sick. I'm not saying they walk in and say, I'm sick. No, you're not. You know, like childhood game. No, you're not. Yes, you are. No, you're not. No, you're not. Now, I'm not saying you do that. It's in the soul you have a knowing. You take your clipboard and your usual, yeah, okay, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, tell me how long has that been going on? You do all the usual on the outside because you have to meet them on the level they believe they're at. But on the inside, you have to have an unwavering knowingness in that which they are. You can't just go, I hope this helps them. You have to know, not that they're going to be fixed. You have to actually know in them is already the solution. That which they are cannot be sick. So that's an easy way to help heal people. Jesus didn't still the water and say, oh, storm, you better just stop it right now. Jesus didn't bring people back to life and say, please, 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 please. There's no other option. He's saying, I'm going to be walking now, lighten up. Because he's choosing to see that if I choose to see the waters as still, that's what it's going to be. Because I am still. Therefore, I can make you still. I am whole. How could you be dead in front of me? Get up. That's how clear and commanding. And they killed him. I'm not saying your destiny is persecution constantly, but I am saying the ego that I am not will attack me for being that which I am. And the ego that I am not will also mirror through the mouths of other people, harassing that which I am. Because the more I become that which I am, the less I become that which I am not. I hope this is making sense because it's hard to keep up with those weird words. The more that I become that which I am, the I am not starts to dissipate. It doesn't scream and fight. It'll look like it, but that's only the power we think we've given it. It really has no power. That's why Jesus says things like in A Course in Miracles that can be confusing to some. Just look at this thing and say, be gone. Look at this thing and say, what are you? You have no power here. He's using phraseology like that. It sounds like, well, let me try that. I'm looking at my beat up car in the driveway. You are now a new Rolls Royce. It didn't happen. That's again, you're coming from that which you are not. It's recognizing we're changing consciousness. And one of the ways you know it's working is when you start to see the storms start to die down. Someone wins this ball game or that ball game, this election, that election, it doesn't seem to have the same pull that it once had. And you also start, because this isn't just a change in the aftermaths in 2020, hindsight. It actually gives you foresight too. Being in the I am presence guides us to know what already is. Literally prophetic like, to know who's going to win this, who's going to win that, how this day is going to go, and so forth. There's nothing wrong with us knowing this is a healthier relationship to choose if you're choosing one. This is a little bit more of a healthy job for you. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the I am not that thinks I have to learn the hard way. And some of us go, well, God tests us. God doesn't hand out the tests. It does not. It's our beliefs that attract them. Absolutely attract them, and constantly. For good or ill. You can attach a good, quote unquote, or a bad, quote unquote, name to our lessons, but they're not coming from God. So the I am presence is immune to all that stuff. The I am presence is that which I really, truly am. And if we walk around going, that which I am, thank God, is really cool, but those people out there, you can't see people like, you can't see the I am in you if you can't see the I am in others. So by the denial of, I don't care if it's a president or a local religious person or an international tyrant. Our job isn't to say, well, thank God that tyrant is safely over in another country. There is no other in anything. If there's an other, there's an outer. If there's an outer, there's two. If there's two, there's God and us. Separate. This is scary. I don't like hearing this, but I'm willing to try. I'm willing to accept that somehow we all play a part, and the only way to heal this is by taking responsibility that we may have contributed. I do so now. I surrender such choices now, and I deny their effects in me and my world. Now that I've said all that, I'm choosing again a different reality. Show me what I am. God, you show me who I am. Watch the use of those words. Show me who I really am. Who I am. And then show me the I am in others. I'm going to share a couple biblical quotes before we're done. First, from A Course in Miracles, there's a light in you which cannot die, whose presence is so holy that the world is sanctified because of you. Try to breathe this idea in. All things that live bring gifts to you and offer them in gratitude and gladness at your feet. The I am, right? It's talking about of you. The scent of flowers is their gift to you. The waves bow down before you. The trees extend their arms to shield you from the heat, and drops leaves before you on the ground so that you can walk in softness, while the wind sinks to a whisper around your holy head. Is that how you think every day? Is that how you think? Is that the awareness you hold all the time? That wow, it's like dropping into a different dimension to suddenly realize. Even trees will bow to shade me, as it's said in the story of Buddha's awakening too. He sat in meditation for so long, the blistering heat, but the trees would bow over him to shade him. The arrows and daggers from guilt, shames, and regrets and karma of the world come shooting at him in meditation. It didn't mean literally. It means when you sit still in a commitment to know the I am, all of that which you are not is going to be targeted on you. That's why I still make choices to come here and do the things I've done that I think could be challenging. Because I know they can only be reflecting arrows that have been somehow put into motion, let them rip, and by the time they land, they turn to flowers, just petals. Rose petals. So understand that the world starts to shift, where it starts to become our friend. When you say, I always tend to get stuck in traffic, it just doesn't happen as much. It tends to open up for you. But you're not going to be one of those people that go, I am going to use my mighty power. I'm going to divide traffic because I am here. I'm not talking about your egotisms, out on the road, or I'm going to manifest the parking lot in front. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, hang out somewhere else. Or walk, a few spots to the door, the store door. Just relax. It doesn't have to come from the ego self. But imagine that the world becomes your friend, a support system. So much so that all of a sudden you say, it's time for me to get a couples counselor. and it just drops in. A perfect, intelligent, experienced counselor. You know, that bed is really starting to affect my body. I don't know if it's the bed getting old or me getting old, but it's starting to affect. And then somebody says, hey, by the way, I have a new a bed. It's gifts. All kinds of gifts. All kinds. Yes, it also means that you don't notice the temperature as much. You don't notice such and such as much. But still, gifts as well. Shoulder massages out of the blue or whatever. It's just the reflection of God. When it happens, breathe. Don't just go, oh, that's nice. Stop and inside. I'm not saying outside you have to reflect all this all the time, but stop and think about this. Somebody just spontaneously was giving you a shoulder rub. Or said, I heard that you were looking for a hair salon. I do hair. I'd love to do that. Whatever it is, whether it's still things you pay for or they're just flat out gifts. Stop for a moment and say to yourself, it has been in my life where I wasn't able to create such a thing. It has happened when the traffic didn't open up or when I needed somebody to talk to, they weren't there. So I think I'm not going to take advantage of this moment and instead I'm going to say thank you. Who am I thanking? Well, you can thank God. But God's not like, it's about time. Really, thank that I'm making healthier choices. Thank that I'm starting to live the I am. So I'm actually starting to live the life God has promised me since the beginning of time. And in closing, another couple of quotes I brought. Actually, I'm going to summarize these just to say how often Jesus Jesus and Moses were both using the name I am. Whether the master of the Old Testament and the New Testament, they both taught the name of God is I am. But several times, Jesus, he's talking to the Samaritan woman, and she says, who are you? And she's saying, I've heard of a coming Messiah, and this and that and the other. She says, is that who you are? He said, I am. He uses the reference, the phrase, I am, constantly. Completely emptying himself, he could say, the ego that I am not is not the source of the words I speak. I'm only going to add even a word to some of his sayings and listen how it changes them. The ego I am not is not the source of the words I speak. It is the I am who dwells in me that does the work. Or it is the I am who can say, no one comes to the Father except through me. Or there was one time when the apostles went out to sea without Jesus, the ocean, and the ocean gets all messed up and it's all turbulent. So Jesus walks out on the water and says to them, it is I am. Do not be afraid. One of the times he was followed rather by a large crowd. They were becoming hungry and he manifests food, right? Remember that? He says to them, I am the bread of life. He means I am is the bread of life. I am is the source of all good. I am is God. Whoever comes to me shall never be hungry. Another time he speaks and says, I am the light of the world. No follower of mine shall wander in darkness. Why? Because I am is the light of the world. What is I am? It's God. But it is also the I am in me. The I am in me. So you're thinking about making decisions in your life that are just not healthy. Don't shame it. Don't pretend it isn't happening. Just discern what it is. The I am is very clear right now, but I am not is confused. Therefore, I am not confused. I know the truth. Which one will I choose is another story. And if you choose that which you are not, no problem. Just know that that which you are not is going to manifest some karmic results, which are also not. But it's going to feel pretty real when it hits you. When you lift up the Son of Man, you will come to recognize or realize, I am. And while he was speaking this way, many came to believe in him. This meant that when we raise up out of the ego, I am or I am not, we will rise to the true I am. When Jesus approached a man who was blind, he said, as long as I am is in the world, I am is the light of the world. Again, just adding a word to some of his sentences gives clarity to what he was trying to say. And then when they came to arrest him, are you any other terminology? Are you the one who's this? Are you Jesus of Nazareth, etc.? His answer is, I am. But you know what? In some of the scriptures, some of the gospels vary in slightly details vary of a description of an event. One of them says, when they said, are you Jesus? And he said, I am. there was this boom, and all the soldiers fell to the ground. Do you feel that? I am, boom, because there's a presence with that acceptance. I am. I'm not telling you have to go out and compete your I am and try to prove your I am and try to say, well, I'm going to, when nobody's looking, I am, to see if it creates that same boom. I'm saying, even metaphorically, understand, I am. Despite divorce and this and that and sickness, I am sane and clear and guided. Say it and it creates a boom. You may not be able to feel it yet because that which you are not doesn't believe in it yet. Just know that it can't not happen. It can't not exist. For there to be a quickening, a powerful boom, because you just used the name of God in the presence of things that are going to fall away. Those soldiers falling away is a metaphor of your issues falling away. It may happen instantly, depending on your clarity and belief systems, or it may take days, weeks, months, but something will shift because you've spoken the name of God. Don't bother using God's name in vain. Don't say I am and mix it with a bunch of garbage. That's not a command of look out or you're going to get punished. It wouldn't be very advisable to say I am and then mix it with weird things like sick or sad or lonely. How could I am be lonely if it's one with all? How could I am be sick? It doesn't make any sense at all. How could the Christ or the God or whatever be sick? It's that which I am not. And just learn to discern between the two. And once you learn that which is real, that which is not real, it helps you to make healthier choices. And when you don't choose healthy, at least you can take responsibility and say, oops, my bad, and choose again. Please take a few centering breaths. Let's set aside all the stuff of the world. Let's have a moment of meditation. As we've done several times in the past in meditation, we're going to use that concept of I am. Right now, just become aware of your normal, daily human self. And then describe in your mind your daily stuff, issues, struggles, complications, doubts, whatever they are. Physical, emotional, financial, mental, intellectual, just become aware. And just imagine the kind of weight these things manifest or tend to feel. Imagine how you feel with the weight of those kinds of things. Don't pretend it's not there. Don't minimize it. Think about it. The average person with your personal or our global struggles, how does that feel? Just day-to-day stuff. How does it feel? Look, it can have a heaviness. It can sort of deflate our hearts and souls. It can weigh heavy on our body, our spine. We're just being honest about that. But let's also understand, this is all not capable in God that I am. Therefore, who is it that experiences this and manifests this? It's that which I am not and that which we are not. Hear those words at least once in your mind and notice how you'll feel a disconnection from the power they had at once. At one time, they seemed to have this power. So try to watch the difference. When you say, these things cannot be coming from God I am, and that we are, they can only be coming from that which I am not and we are not. Clarity. It changes the power these things seem to have had. Breathe into that for a moment, like an aha, like, okay, wow, I get that. And then a light in the center of your being, the brightest light you can imagine, from small and begins to grow and grow and grow to fill you. This light is that which I am. That which I am. I am as God created me. I am a holy child of God. I am the Christ on earth. I am that I am. Any wording you prefer. I am. I am as God created me. And it grows and fills your whole being. So this is not make-believe, but if you have to think of it that way to make yourself wrap your mind around it, then do that. But let it grow and build and become bright. Your whole being is that I am. I am as God created me. I am the will of God. And if that's true, now look at all the stuff of the world and life and challenges and problems, global and personal, and start repeating quietly. Be still and know I am God. Understand the meaning of that. Be still. You're commanding those things. Hold it. Stop. Back off. Debts, struggles, illnesses, hold it. Back off. Be still. And know you're in the presence of the I am of God. Disperse. You have no place here. Speak to it in your own words, in your own commands, but try to feel it. Feel the truth of the statement. If you fail to feel it or believe it, it's okay. It just means you're affirming that you still continue to believe you're not worthy. But God has already decided you are, so I would go with that. I am that I am. Anything I could be struggling with, the I am is totally capable. It's only my old beliefs in that which I am not that brought this about. I surrender that, deny its effects, and call in that which I truly am. Personally and globally, we watch all that dissipate. Don't buy into stuff. Religions and politics and differences and illnesses and racisms. Just see it all dispersing. And we hear the words, God is. I am. We are. And so it is. And then again, God is your commanding from the soul, from that light which God is. I am. We are. And we doesn't just mean all people, it means everything. Amen. God is, I am, we are. Amen. God is, I am, we are. Amen. God is, I am, we are. Amen. Feel it. God is, I am, we are. Amen. God is, I am, we are. And to all beings, God is, I am, we are. Amen. One more time. God is, I am, we are. And imagine it's a mantra that creates a song or vibration that goes throughout the universe in all dimensions, realms, and times to all beings who feel it as an easy, organic wave that washes across their being and gives them all they were ever looking for, all they would have ever hoped for. And so it is.